But I do think that we're going to pick up a lot of seats, and picking up whether it's 4, 5, or 6 seats in each case, that's a big win. And the same thing in the House. We're going to pick up a lot of seats in the House. This is a victory, and I think a complete rejection of the Obama administration's agenda. This really is, I think, Neil, really the last chance for the American people to pass judgment on the Obama agenda.
All right, from his lips, you know the rest of that. Joining us now is Bloomberg View columnist and senior editor at National Review, Ramesh Ponnuru. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Great to talk to you. Thanks for doing this. All right, before we get to your piece, Hold the Champagne, Republicans, what do you think of what Mitt Romney had to say, and where do you think we will be 24 hours from now?
Well, if I had to bet, I would say Republicans will end up, after these elections are all over, with 7 or 8 extra seats in the Senate and control of the Senate, and maybe about 10 House seats. I think they're probably going to lose some governorships, but all in all, I think it's going to be a pretty good night for Republicans. Of course, there'll be some runoffs, so it won't all be over.
And, you know, you in your piece at BloombergView.com, Hold the Champagne, Republicans, you know, you talk a lot about the Real Clear Politic averages, and I'm looking at a bunch of them now. And there are plenty of examples of candidates here today with leads of 3 points or less. And never has a candidate with 3 points or more lead in the final day of Real Clear Politics rolling averages for the Senate lost. But you got Iowa, Colorado, Alaska, Georgia, Kansas, North Carolina, and New Hampshire all under 3 points, and some of them significantly under 3 points.
That's right, and you could say the same thing about governors' races as well. There are a lot of really tight ones there, and that's why, you know, if Democrats keep the Senate, it'll be a surprise to me, but it's not going to be a shock. They just need a few things to break their way.
Well, okay, what would that, I mean, if that were to happen, and I'll add, God forbid, because I'm not ashamed of saying that, I mean, my goodness, what the media will just go absolutely bonkers. Talk about champagne, you won't be able to find any in New York or Washington. But what would that mean on the ground? What would that mean politically? What would that mean for Obama?
Yeah. Well, I think it means that the Democrats, who are already confident that history is on their side, become even more confident and even more contemptuous of the Republican opposition and more inclined to dismiss it. On the Republican side, I think it means that Republicans would start to face the possibility that things are much worse than they thought they were, that their condition is much worse, and then I think there's going to be a lot of bitter fighting about what went wrong, again, if the election turns out to be disappointing.
If the election turns out to be disappointing, and I guess if that were the case, we'd have to look at the demographics of it and see who stayed home, who came out, especially on the conservative side or the Republican side. But, I mean, if Republicans can't win, based on what Mitt Romney said as a repudiation to this most unpopular president, if they're not motivated to come out amidst all the scandals and all that the economy is suffering through and foreign policy, you name it, then when will they win an election?
That's right. Obama is unpopular nationally, and he's especially unpopular in a lot of the places where the elections are being held. He's very unpopular in Kansas, in Georgia, in Arkansas, for example, all places with live Senate races right now. So if Republicans can't win under these circumstances, it is going to be a real question about how they're going to win when the circumstances are worse for them.
Yeah, and let's take this extension, this fictional extension to 2016. What does this do to the 2016 landscape if the Democrats were able to hold the Senate?
Well, you know, as I said, I think that the Republicans start fighting among themselves to explain these disappointing results. So I think that a Democratic win in the Senate renews the infighting among the Republicans.
And who wins? Who wins, Ramesh? I'm sorry to interrupt. Who? We only have 45 seconds. Who wins if that infighting begins in earnest after this disappointing election, if it turns out that way? Is it the conservative Tea Party side, or is it the establishment?
I'm afraid the answer to that question is more likely not one of those two groups, but rather Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, that's a good point. Ramesh Ponnuru, always great to talk to you, sir. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, folks, very interesting scenario, very depressing scenario, I have to be honest with you. And don't forget, we'll have extensive election coverage starting with my show, the Road to the Midterms, and that'll be tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern. Newsmax Money News is next.